Hi students, this is the Teacher Help Teacher Help video for Study Guide Unit 2. So there's going to be questions on here that you will see in Illuminate, as well as the Unit 2 test, or some of the numbers may be different, but the Illuminate ones, the answers are shuffled, but they're basically the same type of questions. And then there's other questions that will either be the same on the Unit 2 test, or they will be the same type of questions with maybe a different number. Okay, so make sure you have scratch paper, pause the video as needed. I will go through this, rather quickly, so the video's not super long. You can come back to it. Remember, you can do this study guide as many times as you need to prepare for the Unit 2 test and the Illuminate test. So let's get to it. Use scratch paper to work your math problems. Use the video as much as needed. Read your questions carefully. And use your formulas to find things. I suggest you write them on your scratch paper. Y over X gives you K, or the constant of proportionality, and the formula of Y equals K times X. All right, after you enter your name and pick your class hour, let's get to it here. A recipe for salad dressing calls for 3 tablespoons of oil for every 2 tablespoons of vinegar. The line represents the relationship between the amount of oil and the amount of vinegar needed to make the salad dressing. According to the recipe, the point when x is 1, y is 1.5 is on the line. Which of the following demonstrates a correctly labeled graph? So in other words, they want your x and y axis, or lines, to be labeled. So let's set it up. This is going to be our y. Gotta get my pen working first. Sorry. This is going to be our y. This is going to be our x. So I'm going to write it this way. 3 tablespoons of oil for every 2 tablespoons of vinegar. Why is that important? There's your y. There's your x. So that tells you what's going to be on your y line, what's going to be on your x line. So on our x line, we should have vinegar. Our y line, we should have oil. So that's what we're going to go look for. And we can also find our constant of proportionality here, which is 1.5 tablespoons. I'm not going to write that out. Let me go ahead and go back for a second and erase. Just put the shortcut for tablespoons because it's a lot easier. Tablespoons of oil for every 1. Oh, I'm just having trouble here. Vinegar. Okay. And still y over x. And why do I do that? That tells me how to write my equation. Y equals 1.5 with x behind it. And that way, if they're using different letters and you set it up this way, you know how to do it. All right. So first, let's go find the correctly labeled graph. Well, A is not labeled correctly because the line is not labeled. Not B. We don't want the line labeled. We want our axis, x and y axis, labeled. This one has oil on x and vinegar on y. Remember, the line at the bottom is always your x line. Let me go back and talk about that. This is your x. This is your y. And always remember that because y is an up and down line. Okay, so we need that. We need x to be vinegar. Because remember, up here, x was vinegar, y was oil. X is vinegar, y is oil. So you found the correctly labeled graph, which is B. All right, now we're going to move on to question 2, which is still using the same relationship that we've been doing. And I'm going to clear that and move on to question 2. Same recipe. Exactly, same point on the graph. It says, which of the following equations represents the proportional relationship between the oil and the vinegar? So remember, up there we had done the 3 over 2 3 of the oil over 2 of the vinegar. I'm just going to leave the tablespoons out. This is our y. This is our x. We do 3 divided by 2, and we get 1.5. And that means that's our constant. Y comes first, then 1.5, then x. Whatever letter's on top is the letter that comes first in your equation, then your equal sign, then your k or your constant of proportionality, then your second letter or the letter on the bottom. Let's go find it. It's not that one, not that one. There it is. Y equals 1.5 with the x behind it. And that gives us directions. If we need to find our y value, we multiply our x's by 1.5. So we got C. Again, if you needed to slow down, please pause as needed. Now we move on to question 3, which still has the same exact situation. Same salad dressing, the same line. The 0.1 and 1.5 is on the line. Which of the following is the best exclamation point for the point when x is 1, y is 1.5 in terms of this situation? Okay, so when we did that, we had 3 tablespoons of oil over 2 tablespoons of vinegar. We divided, and we got 1.5 tablespoons of oil for every 1 tablespoon of vinegar. That's your situation. That's what answer we're looking for. For every 1.5 tablespoons of oil, we need 1 tablespoon of vinegar. So let's go find it. The 0.1 and 1.5 shows that for every 3 tablespoons of oil, you need 2 tablespoons of vinegar. That doesn't explain the point. It is correct, but it doesn't explain 1 and 1.5. B, the point when x is 1, y is 1.5 shows you could make the recipe with 1 tablespoon of vinegar and 1.5 tablespoons of oil. Is that correct? 1 tablespoon of vinegar and 1.5 tablespoons of oil. It's correct. All they did was turn them around. So that's why it's important to write it on your scratch paper, because they can turn those around and they're still correct. Okay, write things down on scratch paper. So it is B. Okay, I'm not even going to read the rest because I found my answer. But you need to make sure you write things down. Keeping them in your head, you're not going to remember them. All right, I'm going to clear and move on to question 4. Question 4. The 2 lines represent the amount of water over time in 2 tanks that are the same size. Which of the following is the correct answer and explanation for which tank is filling more quickly? So you've got waters in gallons over the amount of time in minutes. You've got tank A and tank B. So what you do is you look for the line that's the steepest. And by steepest, I mean the most up towards the Y line. The one that's closest to being straight up and down, because what that means is its constant is a higher number and it's moving faster. So the closer the line is to the Y line, the faster it is. The closer it is to the X line, the slower it is in this situation. So this means tank A is filling faster. So let's go look at the answers. A, container A, because its graph is less steep than container B. All right. B, container A, because its graph is steeper than the graph of container B. There is the correct answer, B. Okay. Container A is filling faster because its graph is steeper than the graph of container B. Steeper means closer to straight up and down. That's what the word steep means. Okay. All right. Let's move on to question 5. Clear that. Question 5. The graph shows the cost, C, cost right here, in dollars of pounds, W, of blueberries, which is a proportional relationship. And we know it is because it's a straight line that goes through the origin. And they want you to select all the true statements. And I see they gave us a point on that line of 6 and 116.50. So this is our X value, this is our Y, but notice they're using different letters. That's fine. So $16.50 for, that's our cost, for 6 pounds of blueberries, okay, which was a W. So I'm going to do that division to see how much 1 pound costs. All right, and when I do the division, I find out that 1 pound of blueberries is going to cost me $2.75 for 1 pound. Why is that constant important? Because now we can check all the answers to see which ones are correct. 5 pounds of blueberries cost $15.50. So what we do is we multiply 5 times 275 to see if we get $15.50, which we don't. Now we move on to 12 pounds of blueberries. To see if they cost $33, we do 12 times 2.75. And I do. I get 33 bucks. So that one would be on our graph. All right. C says 2.7 pounds of blueberries cost $1. That's not correct. 2.75 is money. 1 needs to have pounds behind it. That is a trick question because they changed the units. Don't get caught. Then D, 1 pound of blueberries, 1 pound, costs $2.75. It does. And then E, the point 3 and 9 is on the graph of the proportional relationship. 3 times 2.75 is not 9. So no, that would not be on the line. So we found our answers, B and D. Remember, pause if you need to. Question 6, which graphs are not proportional? So we're looking for the graphs that are not proportional. Remember, to be a proportional graph, it's got to be a straight line, and it's got to go through 0, 0, or if you made it long enough, it would go through 0, 0. So I look at A. Well, that is a straight line. And if I made it longer, it would go through 0, 0. And we're looking for not proportional. So I go to B. B is a straight line, but it does not go through the origin. So I found my first non-proportional graph. Let's see if there's any more. C. C, that does not look like a straight line to me. And if you're not sure, you hold your paper up to it, your scratch paper. If it was a straight line, you'd be able to see all the dots along the line. It also does not go through the origin. So it is not proportional. D, well, that's a straight line, and it does go through the origin. So my 2 graphs that are not proportional are B and C. So I would make sure to check those 2, B and C. Those are my 2 that are not proportional. Not proportional. All right, let's move on. Number 7. I'm going to clear the screen. The table shows the weight of apples at the grocery store. Which of the following below completes the table so there is a proportional relationship between the number of apples and their weight? Remember, we do the second divided by the first. The second divided by the first. Do not get confused because these have X and Y's in there, okay? Because they're not doing X and Y. They're using weight and apples, okay? These are just values they want you to fill in here. Missing things. So we're going to do the second divided by the first, which is 60 cents, which is our cost, divided by the number of apples, 5 apples. And that shows us that each apple is 12 cents. So we need to find out how many 2 apples would cost. 2 times 0.12 is 24 cents. So I go down and I look for the ones that have 0.24. The other ones can't be it. So I know it can't be A and it can't be C. So I see that B and D both have 0.24. So now I need to check the next one. How do I find it? Again, we're looking for a second number, so we multiply 12 apples times 0.12, and we find out that 12 apples would cost $1.44. So the only answer it could be is D, $1.44. 0.24 cents for 2 apples and $1.44 for 12 apples. And now you have your answer. All right. Andre rode his bike at a constant speed. He rode 1 mile in 5 minutes. 1 mile in 5 minutes. Which of these equations represents the amount of time in minutes that it takes him to ride a distance of D in miles? So they're looking for minutes per mile, not miles per minute. All right, so I'm going to set it up that way. We need miles on top, and miles is going to be D for distance. And on the bottom, we need minutes, which is T for time. Does everybody agree? Let's go back and check that. I'm going to clear that again. What did it say? Minutes per mile. See, I did it backwards. So we need minutes on top. Woo, Miss Coffman did it backwards. So minutes per mile. Minutes goes on top. Per means divide. Miles goes on the bottom. So it's really important to write it down. See, even I make mistakes. So always check your answer. So they have minutes first over miles. And that would be T over D. Okay? Now, let's put our numbers in. How many minutes did we go? 5. And how many miles? 1. Now we're ready to write our equation because 5 divided by 1 is 5. T goes first, then 5, then the second letter. And go find that equation in the answer, which is A. And you can see that even I wanted to do miles per minute. So it's really, really important that you read the question carefully, not get in a hurry, because I just did that. But they were looking for the amount of time. So they wanted minutes per mile, not miles per minute. Okay, so the answer is A. A. So make sure you check A for this one. And again, you see how I wrote it? I put the correct units next to it because they're not using Y and X. Then I put my numbers in, and now I know that the first letter is always the first letter in the equation, the top one, then the equal, then your constant after you divide 5 divided by 1, then the second letter or the letter on the bottom goes behind the constant. All right, let's move on. Question 9. Read the situation below carefully and select the correct answer and explanation for whether there's a proportional relationship between C and F. And C is Celsius and F is Fahrenheit. So the equation F equals Fahrenheit equals 9 over 5 times C, Celsius, plus 32 relates temperatures measured in degrees Celsius or C to degrees Fahrenheit F. Okay, then we know if this is proportional. Remember, proportional relationships can only show multiplication. So if we were writing a proportional equation, it should look like this. K times C. Okay, there should not be any addition, no subtraction, no exponents in the equation. This has addition. So that is not a proportional relationship. It would not give us a straight line, okay? I mean, it would give us a straight line, I'm sorry, but it would not go through the origin. And how do I know it would go in through the origin? Because you have plus 32, okay? So that means you'd have a point at 0 and 32. All right, so anytime you have addition, it is not going to be a proportional relationship. It is not going to go through the origin. If you have addition or subtraction, it will not go through the origin. So we know it won't, it'll be a straight line, but it won't go through the origin. Let's go find the answer. Well, we know it's not yes. Let's go to our no answers. No, because if you graph this equation, it is a line that does not pass through the origin. Yep. Let's look at the other no. No, because if you make a table, there will be a common multiple from row to row. That's not right. We know there's not going to be a K because it's not proportional. So it has to be the second one, and it won't go through the origin when it has adding 32. All right, so I'm going to clear that. I'm sorry that was a little at first, but proportional equations only show multiplication, no addition or subtraction, no exponents. If they have exponents, they're not a straight line. If they have addition and subtraction, they do not go through the origin. All right, number 10. Which graph represents a proportional relationship? Well, A is a straight line, but does it go through the origin? Nope. B is a straight line, but does it go through the origin? No. C, straight line, 0, 0. Looks good. D goes through 0, 0, but it is not a straight line. So the only one it could be is C. And C is a proportional graph. All right, we're down to question 11. Question 11. The chart below shows a proportional relationship between the distance traveled and the hours. What is the distance traveled in 2 hours? Well, we need to know the distance traveled in 1 hour first. So we're going to take the second divided by the first. So we're going to do 1,650 miles divided by 3 hours. 1,650 miles divided by 3 hours is 550 miles per hour. Or in 1 hour, they go 550 miles. So now all we have to do is multiply 550 times 2. And when you do that, you get your answer. And I don't even think I'm going to pick that for you because I know you can do that. All right? And it tells you that right down here. All right, 550 times 2, right here. All right, let's move on to the next question. If blueberries cost $2 a pound, how much will 12 pounds of blueberries cost? So 1 pound costs $2. Wants to know how many 12 pounds costs. Well, that means we take 12 times 2. That's going to be $24 for 12 pounds of blueberries, correct? Which is B, $24 for 12 pounds of blueberries. All right, everybody agree? And another thing I want to show you something, an easy way to find this is it was $2 for 1 pound. All right, our constant is $2 a pound. All right, when you're trying to decide, how do I know if I multiply or divide by my constant? You look at the unit behind the number they gave you. See how it's pounds? What's the first unit with the $2? When the units are different, you multiply by your constant. When the units match, you divide by your constant. So when we find a divide one, I'll make sure to show you that. But it is multiplication, and that's why we got 24. All right, moving onward. Sandra used a proportional table to find a constant of proportionality of 9.5. What is the correct equation to show this proportional relationship? So we're using this format. And all that means is our constant of proportionality, or K, goes right there. So that means it would look like this, 9.5x. So we go find that answer, which is right here, C. All right? All right, let's move on. If the constant of proportionality for this chart is 2.5 grams of food per day, how much food in grams would they need for 7 days? So our constant is 2.5 grams, and I'm writing out for a reason, per day. And they want to know 7 days. So see, there's grams right behind the constant. And right behind the number they're giving us is days. They're different units. That means we multiply. So we do 7 times 2.5. 7 times 2.5 gives us 5. Not that. I did not mean to push that. Eraser. There we go. Pen. 17.5. And that's what you're going to type in, 17.5. You just enter the number. You don't need to put your grams. You just type in 17.5. Okay? All right, I'm going to clear that. So if you need to pause, please do so. All right, read the situation below. How many tablespoons of cocoa per cups of milk? Select all equivalent recipes or answers or recipes. So they're doing cocoa over milk. So I'm going to write that down. Cocoa over milk. That's important. So I want my cocoa number on top, my milk number on the bottom. So it says Hans is making some hot chocolate by mixing 4 cups of milk with 6 tablespoons of cocoa. Cocoa's on top, so 6 over 4. Everybody see that? There's your cocoa. There's your milk. All right, I already see that answer there. Now, let's go ahead and simplify that. They're both even numbers, meaning you can divide by 2. And when I do that, I get 3 of cocoa for every 2 cups of milk. So I go see if that's there. Sure enough, it is. Right here, E. And now I'm going to check any more I have. So to see if 12 and 8 works, if I multiply 3 by 4, I get 12. If I multiply 2 by 4, I get 8. That's a proportional or equivalent recipe. This one's 24 over 6. So if I multiply 3 times 8, I get 24. But 2 times 8 is 16. So that's a nope. 4 over 6 is not correct. Remember, the 6 went over the 4. And 2 over 3 is not correct. It was 3 over 2. So those are our choices. We have A, B, and E. And so if you set them up the way it asks, cocoa over milk, put your numbers in, simplify, and then use your simplified fraction. You have to have this, you have to multiply the same number on the top and bottom for it to be equivalent, like I did here. 3 times 4 is 12. If I wasn't sure what it was, I could do 12 divided by 3. I got 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So that I know uses the same number for the top and bottom. It's just basically simplifying fractions. Right, make sure to pause if you need anything to write down. All right, question 16. If Sam is given the coordinates, when x is 4, y is 3 to graph, and told it's a proportional line that goes through the origin, what is the constant of proportionality for this line? Write your points down. Put your letters above it. Remember, your first is always x, your second is y. It's ordered pair. To find our k, we need to do y over x. So we put our y number on top, 3, our x number on the bottom, 4. That's our constant of proportionality, 3 over 4, which is B. So everybody make sure you can do that. That is a very, very tested item. All right, 3 is on top, 4 is on the bottom. Y over x. Lots of people miss this. Please write your point down. Please put x and y above them before you try and do it in your head. You'll miss them. All right, so we know our constant of proportionality, or K, is 3 over 4. That's important because I think we're going to see this question again. We do. Use the coordinates 4 and 3 on a proportional line and select the correct equation. So we already used them. This was our x, this was our y. Y over x was 3 over 4. That's our k. So that means we're going to put it in the equation. Y equals 3 over 4 times x. And we're going to go find that. And there it is, B. B. All right. Number 18 is next. Find the constant of proportionality. This is the equation they gave you. Your constant of proportionality is your k value. Whatever number, fraction, decimal is sitting in front of the second letter after the equal sign is the answer. The only thing there is the 1 over 3. That's all you want. No letters. So that means it's D. K equals 1 over 3. Okay? All right. 19. The table below has a proportional relationship. Select the correct equation for B to A. So B to A. So we do the second over the first, or B over A. 10, which is a B, over 4, which is an A. I do 10 divided by 4, and I get a K of 2.5. Now, when I go to write my equation, B's on top. It goes first. I got my 2.5. and my A is on the bottom, so it goes second, and that is your equation. That is why you need to write your letters down, so that when you write your equation, whatever letter's on top, it goes first. Whatever letter's on the bottom, it goes second. Use scratch paper, people. It is your friend. And that is going to be, not that one. There it is, D. It's going to be D. And then finally, select the reason the graph below is not a proportional relationship. Well, I see it's a straight line, but does it go through the origin? Nope. So let's see what we have. This graph is proportional relationship. No. This graph is not a straight line. Well, that's not true. This graph does not go through the origin. There it is. This graph is not proportional for an unknown reason. Nope. It's not proportional because it doesn't go through the origin. So that's it, people. Use this and go back as many times as you need to understand, and make sure you ask your teacher for help if you have any questions. And I know you're going to do great. Study for it, practice, use your scratch paper, and keep being awesome.